This is the Lippin Putts Podcast here in the Woodward Sports Studio. Again, I am Nick Leach, joined by Sam Palmer, as always. Definitely a lighter episode coming to everyone this week. The golf world seems to be in a bit of a lull, even though we just had the BMW Championship that took place with the DP World Tour. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that, as that was kind of a crazy weekend involved there. LIV Golf goes to Chicago this week. Yeah. So we'll do a little preview on that.
And the PGA Tour season kicks off with the Fortinet. So a slower week from, I guess, last one. There's some things to talk about. But I think we wanted to do just a few previews, some players we expect to maybe make some headwinds for the entire season, starting this week on the PGA Tour. And then a little, as you mentioned, LIV Chicago. Yeah, they released the teams well in advance for once. We were laughing that they had released the teams before we record this podcast on a Monday. So
yeah, I mean, it's that I'm telling you, I think someone's got an ear from the LIV Golf Tour into this podcast, because a lot of the stuff that we put out there, whether it be complaints or changes that we think should happen, kind of have happened.
Yeah, they're listening.
So we got their attention.
Not the hockey net yet, though.
That'll come. Just it's in due time. But I guess before we get into all of that, back from another weekend. I once again did not play any golf. I was submerged in football. My job kind of requires me to make sure I watch football, so I did a lot of that this weekend. But did you get a chance to get out and play at all?
I was able to play Thursday, I think. I don't even remember. I think it was Thursday. Played a little golf. Enjoyed it, obviously. In the weekend, I was down in Detroit for Dally in the Alley, and then down in Detroit on Sunday for some tailgating fun and watching football. So, same. Didn't get a ton of golf in, but I'll be playing twice this upcoming weekend, so looking forward to that.
There you go. I feel like I haven't played in a minute. And sometimes that can be either a good thing or a bad thing. For me, sometimes when I take a little bit of a break, it gets all of like those old nasty swing habits that you've been making, gets them out of the swing, and then you go out and play pretty well. So
it's kind of like a hard reset.
Yeah.
And even if it's like people laugh, even if it's like 2 weeks, a month, like if I just take a week, like in the summer when I play a lot, if I take the weekend off, kind of go, that's for me like 2 weeks basically. It's a good reset. Yeah. You sometimes need it. So
yeah. So I'm looking forward to next. I think I'll be playing at some point this week. At least I hope to. We are getting.
We might need a guy on Saturday.
Oh well, there we go. Might have to count.
Say less.
But we're kind of getting to that point where we're getting some real fall weather. I think even today was like 70 degrees. 70 degrees was the high. So I think I'm ready for. I'm ready. I'm in a quarter zip today. You're in a quarter zip. I'm ready for that kind of weather.
When you can comfortably wear pants, and maybe not. You maybe have a quarter zip you put on and off, but when you're golfing comfortably in pants, I don't know why I love that. It's just a perfect temperature. It's not too hot. You're still able to kind of enjoy it, but like fall golf, that like brisk air, that smell. It's great. Nothing beats it.
The only thing I do hate about the ball doesn't travel as far, but
and it's hard to find balls with all the leaves falling.
Well, that's why there's
you got to hit the fairway.
The leaf rule is out there. That's a thing.
Is that an actual thing?
Yeah, it's a local rule inside.
Okay, so it's a I didn't know if it was like a USGA.
No. It's a local rule within inside the rules of golf that you can adopt to your club.
So if you're gonna lose a ball in an area that you think you lost in leaves.
Yeah, some tournaments that we used to run back in the day, we'd have that for some fall events, just because if you hit a ball like 5 feet off the fairway, granted, like you should hit the fairway, but if you do, you shouldn't be penalized for a lost ball. If it's, especially when
if your group can agree on it.
Correct. That's usually what it comes down to. You can't just be hitting the ball left and right and then go, oh, leaf rule.
Yeah, whoops, I hit it into those trees, leaf rule. It's like, well, okay, let's talk. But
yeah, so usually it's your opponents have to agree on it. So.
Okay.
But nonetheless, BMW Championship, DP World Tour kicked off on Thursday and then quickly came to a halt on Thursday as well, too.
Yeah, there was I think it was like 30 players still had to finish. Not even. I mean, there was not a lot of holes left to be played. But the Queen of England had passed away. So
R.I.P.
Obviously, we'll send our condolences to the royal family. But no, they shut down play. Obviously, there was actually a question of like, were they just going to cancel the rest of the tournament? But this is the DP World Tour's major. This is their biggest event of the year. Obviously, they have the race to Dubai, which is like the FedEx Cup playoffs and everything. But this is their Players' Championship, and so I think canceling that was pretty challenging. But the Premier League, like all the soccer, was canceled. They elected it. They took Friday off. They completely stopped play toward the end on Thursday. Took Friday off. They reset round one. Basically, those last guys finished round one on Saturday. They got all of round 2 done on Saturday, and then it was just round 3, and it was final. They announced that on Friday. It was going to be a 54-hole event, #LIV, which everyone's making those jokes, which, look, we're not even going to pour on those ones. it's a different circumstance. The Queen died. She's been the Queen since like 1953. Kind of a big deal.
Which is, it's like side story from the golf and all of that.
Yeah.
Like the amount of backlash that was going on Twitter about the Queen and like how much of like people were calling her a piece of shit and everything like that. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know enough about
It's
like
just people on the line, man. They say whatever the fuck they want.
Well, no, apparently like people that like do their research, and obviously the story with Meghan Markle and her experience of being in the royal family doesn't sound like you really want to be a part of the royal family unless you want to be a piece of shit. That's just my 2 cents.
Hey, maybe she's gonna help change it. Meghan Markle is.
Well, that's why she left the royal family.
I know. I saw like a video of them. A bunch of people lined up to like go to their service or whatever, and I saw she was out there like hugging people. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, she was
probably right. I
mean, I heard she was like disinvited from the Queen's bedside. So that's how much they don't like her, and because I think she let a lot of the secrets out there. So I think a lot of Americans are like, well, kind of screw England. I'm not trying to shit on someone. I know I get someone died, and that's not who I am. But like I was. Again, I'm not into the British Parliament. I'm not into the British Parliament. So when people were just going to town on the Queen, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I personally like. I'll laugh. I don't know who the new king is.
King Charles.
Thank you. Which apparently is not a great dude, from what I've gathered from people.
Well, it doesn't sound like anyone in the family is that good.
I don't like. Do they actually? This is gonna sound dumb, and this is a golf podcast. We're talking about this. I don't think they actually do anything other than they're like a figure. I don't know. Like someone's probably like screaming at their fucking thing, like, "Are you idiot?" Yeah, I just don't know. But
that's why we're doing a golf podcast, not a British Parliament podcast.
We're not going to talk politics.
But no, they have what do they call him? Justin Trudeau's up in Canada.
Yeah, they have the prime minister. But like they have their own actual government, which I think when Queen Elizabeth was in, I don't know when that switched. Well, no, because they had Churchill during the war. I don't know. I think at some point the king and queen stopped having full power, and I think it's really diminished over the last like 50 years.
I think if you're part of the royal family, it just means you get to do whatever you want. Essentially, like Tiger Woods. Like Tiger Woods is the king of the PGA Tour, and he can just do whatever. He wants.
I think there's like
it's a good analogy, I believe.
Yeah, there you go.
But look at us. Big British Parliament.
Yeah.
Like how I'm not even calling it government. I'm calling it Parliament. Yeah. Like I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, that's like I think that the Parliament's their Congress, I believe, or it might be their cabinet.
See, that's where
whatever.
I'm lost again.
But back to the tournament, yeah. So then you had the 18-hole final, the basic final round, 54-hole tournament on Sunday, and Shane Lowry gets his first win since the 2019 Open Championship. So super happy for the Irishman. Rory McIlroy came inches close to doing it. John Rahm and Rory McIlroy lose by 1, but Rory almost made it on a putt on the last hole to force a playoff. John Rahm shot like an incredible back nine, shot 29, which is 8 under, because it's par 37 back nine with a bogey. So he wasn't really in. He had this unbelievable round. He took the lead, but you have the par 5 finish, which is kind of exciting if you ask me.
Yeah.
But yeah, all around good tournament. It's a fun tournament to watch. I was able to watch, obviously throughout the, Thursday and then some stuff on Saturday, but it is a fun tournament to watch. You obviously had a lot of the big names playing in it, and then you get a well-deserved champion in Shane Lowry.
Yeah, and Shane Lowry's been a huge DP World Tour player throughout the years.
Yeah.
We saw him in the Irish Open.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few big names.
He won the Irish Open as an amateur. He was like the last big amateur to win an event, like a big professional event, was Shane Lowry in the Irish Open.
Yeah, so he always goes back to play in that. And I think that was kind of one of the names that just before the Open, we were like, we kind of hope more big names play in that event. But I feel like when Shane Lowry wins a tournament, the entire everyone in golf wins the tournament, just because of the videos that come out of him, his team celebrating. Did you see the video that Team Lowry put out?
I might have.
So there's that trend.
I saw one video.
There's that trend on TikTok and Instagram where people, before they go out partying or at a wedding, I actually did it with my buddies, where you take a video of you taking your first drink. It's like, hey, my name's Shane Lowry. This is my first drink. And you drink. And then they get you at the end of the night, either on your last drink or after you're been done drinking. And everybody, part of his team, was pretty normal. But I want to say it wasn't his agent. I forgot which member of his team it was, but his video was nothing but fuck and bleep and shit. Because I believe it was the DP World Tour or PGA Tour. Somebody posted it and they just bleeped out everything he said. and pretty much every other word besides and but was getting bleeped out. And I was like, this is why people love Shane Lowry.
Yeah, he's like, when you look at the common golfer, he's a guy who it's a lot more. He's more relatable than a guy like Rory. Not saying Rory's not relatable, but he's a fucking superstar who hits the ball a mile. Like, no offense, like Shane's a guy who loves to go crush beers and like do these things. And I'm not saying Rory doesn't. He comes off much more likable.
More of a normal human.
More of a common man. And so like Shane Lowry's a guy who, if I don't think he's ever going to come to the Rock and Mortgage, but if he does, and I randomly walk into Dugan's on Woodward, he might be there, and no one's really going to know who he was. And I'd love to go sit and have a fucking beer with him.
The fact of that, like the chances of that happening are extremely high because the guy loves his home country and just loves Guinness beer.
Yeah, he'll either go Dugan's or the Dow. I mean, if he comes to Rock and Mortgage, we're gonna have to get in his mentions.
We'll just get in his mentions and say,
hey man, we'll meet you at the Dow.
Yeah, meet us here.
A couple pints on us.
But Rory's putt on 18, his putt almost reminded me. You know how you play late at night sometimes, and when you start rolling putts towards the hole, and it almost looks like the putt it could be falling left to right, but then it looks like it falls.
It's like
the opposite way. Yeah, it's almost like the cup is raised up from people just stepping around the hole all day. That's kind of how Rory's putt looked at that. It looked like it was gonna continue to work to the left and fall in, and then it kind of just like almost hit this ridge and just fell back towards the right.
Yeah,
because it didn't have enough pace to carry in the center of the cup. So I thought he was gonna make it just because of how he's played this year. But all in all, a great finish. I know a lot of people. Not a lot of people, but the PGA Tour snobs that hate LIV Golf were a bit petrified because Patrick Reed made a storm up the leaderboard too on Sunday.
Yeah, Patrick Reed and Taylor Gooch were around.
Yeah, so unfortunately we didn't get your final group prediction like we had hoped.
Which I forgot. That
you wanted the LIV versus the PGA Tour guy, but I guess you could say PGA Tour comes on top in this one.
Yeah, well, and look, you know what's funny, like. And I think it's more of a coincidence that Rory's just playing really good golf and he's in really, really good form while this is all going on. But, man, all of these tournaments that feature some sort of LIV versus PGA Tour storyline, he always shows up. And maybe it's just he's been really hot, and which he has been for, like, the last 4 or 5 months. But, again, I mean, it's like he's always around competing with these dudes. And he obviously wasn't the big outspoken one there. I think we talked about in the last podcast. Billy Horschel and Poulter kind of got into it. He was more of the outspoken one this week on it. But, yeah, there's that aspect of Rory's really coming to play because it means something to him. And I don't know if it's revitalized him or if it's just a coincidence, but it's worth noting.
Yeah, and people are calling the PGA Tour the Rory Tour now. Which, I mean, again, we sat here on this podcast. We don't really pledge allegiance to one tour or the other. We're trying to just look at the golf as a whole. But, this is a bit of a feather in the cap for, the PGA Tour. They look at the leaderboard. You had Lowry, you had Rory, and you had John Rahm.
3 big names.
Yeah, and they beat out Taylor Gooch, which Taylor Gooch has played great golf all year long. I'm not going to take that away from him.
Which we talk about. I mean, he had not saying had, because he still has a promising career. We don't know what the stance is going to be with the world ranking and the majors and everything, but like, dude was a top 30 player when he went to LIV, and he just did it because he wanted to take a week off and get paid to go play golf. He got paid, I think it was $1 million. He didn't sign a deal. I'm sure at this point he has. And now he's just made some dumb fucking comments about Ryder Cup atmosphere, which I think he regrets. But you look at it. Now, Patty Reed, and here's the thing, a lot of people got flack for chasing world ranking points when they did this event, blah, 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 which for the record, I will say anyone who goes and plays in any tournaments, they're trying to gain world ranking points.
Agreed.
The aspect was hey, these guys have never played in this before. Why are they doing it now? Well, it's they can't get world ranking points in other events, so they're doing that.
Well, I think Patrick Reed too.
But Patty Reed's he is a lifetime member on the European Tour because he's won a major. Not that anyone who then you have to accept it. But he's a guy who's played in these events. He plays in the Race to Dubai. He's actually active.
But he wasn't one of the guys that came out and said too. He was trying to play less golf. For him, it was.
I think he was people hate me, so I'm gonna go do something.
And it was, his wife telling him, "I want all that money. So.
I need the bag." So it was just worth mentioning. But just to go down the leaderboard, so you had Gooch, who finished 4th. In 5th place, Victor Hovland had the lead. Obviously, going into the final round, he was in the final group with Soren Kjeldsen, a name that he I forget. I know Soren Kjeldsen way more than I should. He's ranked really high, and not even close. I think he's over 500 or 600 in the world. but he's like been somewhat competitive in majors. He's like 5'7", doesn't hit the ball far, but kind of a dog.
Yeah.
So they were in the final group together. They both didn't get it done, obviously. But they tied for 5th with Patty Reed and Thomas Dietry, a new member on the PGA Tour, who we've talked about a lot on this podcast.
You picked him several times.
That name will be mentioned later in this podcast for a little taste. But then Rafa Cabrera-Bello, Billy Horschel, Frank Molinari, and Matthew Pavone round out the top 10. They got T9. So good tournament. Obviously, now they're moving back to the PGA Tour this upcoming week. Not that it's a huge event, and you're going to start getting guys who are going to really start to take some time off, kind of following the President's Cup. And then also we have the LIV Chicago. But, it's a fun event. It's good to watch, and I think it works in this way, like part of the calendar. I think they've worked with the PGA Tour to, hey, don't put anything else, because we like when these guys come and play in this event.
Yeah, and again, you had, 17 LIV guys play, and I think one of the more notable stories that came out of it as well, too, is Sergio Garcia was kind of catching flack because he went out, he shot 76, I believe, opening round, and then the Queen passing away, the Queen passing away kind of, delayed the entire event, and then he withdrew. I don't know, I didn't hear of whether it was an injury or not, but more or less he withdrew, and next thing you know, he was back in the United States at the Texas Longhorns game on Saturday. So people are like, see, this is kind of what we're talking about with some of these LIV guys, is like they're just taking spots from guys that could have played in the event.
Yeah. And
that really are trying to grind it out on the DP World Tour, PGA Tour. This is kind of where, the selfishness lies. And I think that's kind of a proven point, is there was no real reason why he withdrew other than he shot poorly the first day and then just didn't feel like playing the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure in his mind he was like, look, I'm not going to make the cut. I shot 76, blah, blah, blah. But you're right. Like, you kind of made a commitment to that event. And I do think this was just a weird circumstance. Hypothetically, the Queen doesn't die. Does he end up playing that day? Probably. Yeah. But I do think there is an aspect of like a guy withdrawing because he's not playing well. Like, there should be a punishment, whether it's PGA Tour, DP, or anything. Like, one, fans are paying money to go to these things, but I think more importantly, there's alternates who like Justin Rose. He withdrew at back spasms,
and he's been having those back problems.
But like, there's also frustration. Like, if I go and play and like hole 2, I'm like, you know what, I don't have it. Like, my arm's hurting, and I knew about this injury ahead of time. Like, at that point, I'm like, give that spot to someone. And I think a lot of the guys are pretty good about that. Yeah. I'm probably just going on a tangent for no reason here, but I don't know.
But that was just kind of one of the storylines from the weekend. I saw a few people were very upset about it.
And he's, I think there's a few guys that, like, the moment they do something wrong, like, it's time for the golf world to pile on. And, like, Patty Reed's obviously someone, Sergio's someone. So there's aspects. And Sergio's had the roller coaster of going from, if anyone knows WWE, the heel or the face turn, where people kind of liked him when he came out. He was a young guy, electric. Then he became a dick, and he was a dick for a while. And he kind of lost his game. Was competitive in that Open where he lost in a playoff, and people started to root for him. And then he kind of became a dick again, had the temper tantrums. Then he won the Masters, and everyone's like back on him. And then some other things happened. He joins LIV. So he's had the roller coaster of like it being the guy people like and the guy people hate. But the moment you have the excuse to hate this guy, there's that history of it. Yeah. People just pile on.
Yeah, they don't hesitate.
And I'm not saying that it's not warranted.
Yeah, so I assume, I believe he's on the roster to play in LIV Golf this weekend. So obviously it wasn't for any type of injury.
Yeah, he probably was just like, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I think probably after his round, he was probably already making plans, and then everything kind of transposed, and he was like, well, I'm just going to
Yeah, I'm going to leave on Friday. I'm not going to wait around to like play and miss the cut through Saturday. And that, to some degree, I kind of am more on that side of like, hey, if I'm going to miss the cut and I have nothing else to play, like, I don't need to be here. I don't know. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 withdrawals on there too.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Is what it is.
Exactly. But I guess what do we want to preview first? Do we want to do a PGA Tour season preview and then briefly mention some LIV Golf and PGA in the Fortinet Championship?
I mean, since we're talking about Sergio, we might as well go into LIV Golf because he is on the roster to play this week.
Yeah,
so.
It's basically the same. I think it's the same group who was at 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I didn't see much changes from
Pyatt's team stayed the same.
Yep, Pyatt's still with Bubba's still the non-play. Like he's the
non-playing captain with Turk Pettit, I think is his name. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then they have HV3 and
Hudson Swafford.
I was gonna say you're looking at the Swaff Daddy.
Yeah.
Do the 4 aces 4-peat?
I think so. I mean, Taylor Gooch is playing good golf, and now Patrick Reed's coming off another good week of golf.
Yeah, and DJ's the actual best player on that team. So best player on the tour. Well,
and Pat Perez is just kind of he's moral guy.
I will say I saw a post somewhere that he's 10th on LIV earnings,
which is insane.
And his scoring average is like 78. Hey, who cares, man? He got the bag. He's on the team.
Yeah, I'm saying, just put an average Joe out there, pay him a little bit of money, and I'll come do that as well, too.
I would happly, well, I don't want to say that. I'll get thrown under.
Yeah, get the hell out.
Yeah, no, never mind. I'm not committing to that.
Yeah.
No, I'm redacting that statement.
But I will say the logos of these teams, looking at the graphic, the logos have gotten much better. They're not really they're not necessarily using actual logos anymore. They're just using the actual names as the logo.
Yeah, they smash the letters. And again, I think a lot of this stuff is going to change next year. But we're getting this idea, and it's in play, and we're going to see. I mean, this is the 5th event of the 8-event series. So we have a few more. It'll be interesting to see how this one does. I mean, it's going to go against NFL football. It's going to go against college football. Mm-hmm. It went against kind of college football week 1 of college, which is like, yeah. But we'll see. I mean, the viewership, it's hard to take for what it's worth. You never know with like bots and YouTube and stuff like that. But let's see if it's entertaining. And I'm trying to think. They're at Rich Hill Farms, I believe, in Chicago.
I believe that's
I've heard a lot about it. I don't know anything if the golf course is good or not.
Yeah, we'll find out very quickly. What is here's a dumb question, and I should know the answers to this. What does the GC by all these names mean? Just golf course or golf
club? Like the Nivlicks Golf Club. That's my team name. Like a football club.
Oh,
that's how I interpret it.
I was thinking, because I look at golf club and I think of like an actual location. I was like, well, the Aces Golf Club isn't.
I think it's like we're the 4 Aces Golf Club. Like you're the West Ham Golf Club or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense now. That was a dumb question. I should have known the answer.
Dumb questions live, man. Everything's up for interpretation right now.
That's fair. That's fair.
I will say the country club adjacent guys who just they say the things when guys are hitting and they're ripping on these players. I love that shit. That's funny. I think it's funny. You know.
I'm kind of like.
I could never do it. I'm not funny like that.
To me, I'm just kind of like...
You're over it?
I've seen enough of their videos, right? I feel like you've seen enough of their videos like once.
Oh, I see. I don't know. I have not gotten bored with them yet.
How many times do you think someone's like tried to punch them in the face? Do you think ever?
I think like now they're such a big thing that these like players know what they're getting into. And
like half of them is like the fans though, too.
Yeah. Well, like they did Trump. They did like some of the AMs and the pro-ams. There was the video of like Phil who like just kept talking while they were doing it, and they were like waiting to get their things in, and he just hit the shot and he was like, "There, suck it, bitches," which I thought was kind of funny too. But I find it entertaining. Like all these things that they're doing on LIV is entertaining. But to go back to what we talked about last week, it's a meme. It's a fucking meme. It's a joke. Like I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just everything that they're doing, I'm laughing at from an entertaining perspective. I'm not making fun. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm laughing because they are creating some sort of comedic aspect for me. Well,
it's becoming a content thing too. Like you look at Bryson said one of the big reasons that he left was so he could have his own film crew out there. He documents all that stuff.
He wants to have his YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's making all kinds of money off of that. Selling sponsors to that. So they're able to, I guess, market themselves a little bit better. But now you're right. These country club, like the country club adjacent guys. I know Rick Shields Golf is, I wouldn't say employed by them, but
they're in cahoots though.
They're definitely in cahoots. So, it just gives more access to some of the players, and people do enjoy it. I will say it's not like I don't hate those videos by any means. I do watch them.
But they're getting known. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't find myself. I will laugh if like the players are laughing, but like the one I think Cam Smith last week was like.
It was kind of a dud.
Yeah, it was a dud. So I was just like, okay, because like you said, everyone knows who they are now.
Yeah.
It was better when. They were a lot better when people would look back. I was like, what the hell? And it's like, oh, now we know it's just.
Well, yeah, when they did the one with Bryson early on, this is like one of the bigger things when I think they got a lot of like went viral was they like did it and they couldn't get him off. And then like at the end, they said something about like being on steroids. He finally backed off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure they have to think of those things before, but.
Oh, yeah. They got notes on all those guys. But sometimes, too, people are just naturally funny, which I'm not always.
I'm not witty like that.
I can be. I'm witty. Yeah, I'm not witty.
It's
right on the fly. I can be witty on Twitter. That's about it.
I'm terrible at that stuff, as you know.
Maybe I'll train you.
Co-podcast host. Yeah. But then we got the Fortinet, which Max Homa, defending champ, weaker field, but PGA Tour starts this year, and Max Homa will be playing his tune-up before the President's Cup the following week. I don't know if there's a ton to expect. I mean, it's hard. I mean, with all the things going on, and it's a football season, I'm glad they have these events, and I think it's good for specifically the guys that we're going to probably touch on later, some of the up-and-coming guys, the guys who qualified through Korn Ferry, it's very important for them. It's hard to get the person to watch.
Well, I think, and you're going to have a hard time too now that you're going against LIV Golf, and people are going to, one of the things that people like to do is they compare the LIV Golf field to the Fortinet field, and you're going to hear the stories about that and how many major championship played in this field versus that field, how many PGA Tour wins versus that field, and I don't know if that's, the PGA Tour's already made decisions to kind of change that aspect of it. But I'm not saying unfortunately for them, but like they had prior commitments with sponsorships, with the events already set up that they have to go and do these events now. I think if PGA Tour had the choice without any repercussions, they would just cancel the event, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the players would be pissed, obviously.
Right. No, I agree. But I'm saying if they were able to make the changes that are coming next fall, if they could have done them as soon as this fall, they would have they would have done that in a heartbeat. I'm not saying just cancel, but now they're going to do it.
My opinion is with the fall series is like keep the events, make it a team event, and like the big name players don't need to play, but make it a team aspect, kind of like how they do college and high school golf. And hey, I don't know how many guys you get in, but a certain amount of guys will secure a PGA Tour card for the following season because of this team event aspect.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that you can do, but I don't. There's got to be something to do with it. Trying to get the notable names, but of course the PGA Tour.
I know, I was trying to pull it up too, and everything that keeps popping up on my laptop is Fortnite Championship. So
hey, there you go. Do you know what Fortinet is?
No,
I think it's like an IT firewall.
Oh,
they do a lot of networking.
Well, you're an IT guy, so you should know that.
Exactly why.
I guess circling back real quick before we talk about the field. This upcoming week, we didn't even do our picks or anything for the LIV Golf Chicago.
Oh, or we are making picks for that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, we usually do it for the PGA Tour.
I'm going to pull up the roster. Good point.
I do think the aces go back to back.
Call them the 4P.
And I think Patrick Reed actually gets the win this week.
You're going with P. Reed.
I just think, he's kind of a streaky golfer that we've seen over the years. And I think he just needed, he got that good run on Sunday in a 54-hole event. And I think that might translate to Chicago this week for him.
Yeah, I'm trying. So I'm sitting here looking, and I'm like, okay, what team can compete with these guys? And there's only like 3 of them. And then of those teams, like how many of them actually give a shit? Is the next question. Like for example, Brooks Koepka doesn't give a shit, so I don't throw him in. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the Crushers get it done this week.
The Crushers, all right.
It's Bryson, Casey, Charles Howell, and Anirban Lahiri. I think they're gonna get the win. It's hard, winning 4 in a row. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rosters of all these teams, and there's not really a lot of teams that can compete with the aces.
I was going to say, I'm going to go Cam Smith to win this week, though.
Okay.
I don't know anything about this golf course. For some reason, in my mind, you don't have to hit it straight, and so dude's just going to be hitting all over the place.
I mean, he was right up there, and he has been playing some of the best golf in the entire world.
I'm going on a limb, taking the highest-ranked player in the field.
For the last year, so I don't hate that pick by any means. But I think Patrick Reed gets it done this week.
Hey, I'm kind of all about it. I think Patrick Reed is switching from a villain to a face for me. I'm starting to
really. You becoming a P. Reed type guy?
Not really, but there's so many other like unlikable people that like.
Really?
Yeah.
No. See,
there was an article in London Times or something. It was listening to another podcast that they were talking about it, so I don't know much details on it. But he was kind of going through like the turmoil of what has happened within this career.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Victimizing all these things. But the one thing they talked about on the podcast was they said the one thing he's regretted ever doing with all of these bad PR moves that he's done and these shit that's come out was the statement where he said, "I'm a top 5 player in the world."
Yeah.
Which I was like, and the podcast then piled on and was like, what? Because he actually kind of backed it up with some wins. He ends up he said that a few years before he wins his major, but he won a few bigger events that year. I think he won at Doral and stuff. Like he actually kind of did back that stuff up. So there was merit behind that statement. And it's like, dude, if you want to be a best golfer in the world, you have to believe that first before anyone else does. So like, of all things, that's the dumbest thing you think you've said. And that's the one thing you really regret.
So I remember that statement. I remember watching that event live. He won in a playoff against Jordan Spieth. I believe it was. And that kind of, and he was jumping up people's list of like, a guy they really like. He was wearing the the black pants and the red shirt on Sundays for Tiger Woods, people like that. I remember I liked it.
That was funny. Like, that's something that you could regret doing.
But when he made that statement, it did not go over well with the media. It just didn't. And people were like, oh, well, he's kind of overstepping where he's at currently. And from that standpoint on, it was never like he was never looked at in a positive light moving forward. Yeah. Again, it was the guy that was kind of jumping up people's list of some of their favorite players. And for whatever reason, when he made that statement, it completely changed his perception in the media and media and fans. I guess you could blame the media for taking a stance that they did with him. So I actually, that to me, that makes sense of why he said that.
Yeah, no, that's where I sit and I'm like, that's I don't know. He's an interesting guy. That's all I'm saying about it at this point. I still cannot find the Fortinet fucking field.
There's not like an actual list, but I have like some of the committed people, and it's actually not a bad field. So
you have to pull up a DraftKings odds sheet.
I mean, you might have to. So inside the field, Fortinet Championship here on the
Big Dick Rick
PGA Tour website. So
yeah, we're moving over to the PGA Tour now. Sorry,
back to the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're kind of all over the place. But Gary Woodland, Webb Simpson, Hideki Matsuyama, Max Homa.
The deck, really?
Yeah, Cameron Champ's in the field, Jason Day, Harris English, Ricky Fowler, Ches Reavie, Luke List, Nick Taylor.
Don't forget Taylor Pendrith.
Career money exemption players, so guys that you'll definitely know, Jason Duffner, Ryan Moore, and Jimmy Walker.
Talk about some big name players there.
Charlie Hoffman is in the field.
How about the old timers? Is Omar in it?
I do not see his name on this list. Harry Higgs is in the field. So we got, again, that was a guy that we actually talked about that was probably going to get several sponsor exemptions. Yeah. And he's got...
Well, you get some status even if you don't keep your card. But and so like these events he'll get in.
Our boy Sahith Theegala's in the field. So that
might be a good pick to win. Because I think it's...
Davis Riley, Maverick McNeely. So this is where all the younger players that,
Yeah, they're in Cali,
we've talked about over the last few years. So this is actually... I'm actually going down this list. It's actually a lot better list than I would have thought kind of coming into this week. And obviously you get a lot of the Korn Ferry guys that just got their PGA Tour card. They're going to play in this event as well, too.
Oh, one guy who I was like pretty big on this week withdrew, Dean Burmester.
Oh, okay.
God damn it. What the hell happened?
Well, I mean, that's what happens sometimes.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, Brant Snedeker, minor medical extension. So
he still is on the medical? Okay, well. All right, well, I guess, who do you think's going to win? I mean, this could be a good week for Sahith.
It could be.
We might as well talk about it.
I mean, especially since the fact that he's been playing good, right?
His confidence has got to be at an all-time high. He's probably one of like the 4 guys in the field who was in the Tour Championship.
Yep.
He's in his home or basically California where he went to college.
Yep.
Pepperdine. I just think there's a lot of good vibes there. Similar, Max Homa won, home state, like local guy. But I think there's a lot to it. I'm not picking him to win, but obviously he's not going to surprise us when he does.
Davis Riley.
That's your pick?
Yeah, that's my pick.
It's a good pick.
So again, it's a little bit it's a weaker field, right? It's not one of the, hung-strung fields that we've seen, that the tougher ones, and that we've seen. When those fields get tougher, I guess a better way to phrase it, when the fields are easier, that's when we've seen Davis Riley's name on top of some of these leaderboards. So
he was playing really good golf in the summer. He kind of slowed down, but
the fields got stronger, right, as you got closer to the playoffs. So I think that kind of played a big part of it. So
could be.
I'm riding with Davis Riley this week.
All right, my pick, Taylor Montgomery.
Who?
So let me give you a little. He's a Korn Ferry grad. He earned his card in the 25, not the Korn Ferry Finals. He actually earned his card in the season. And we'll talk about him in a sec because we have a few things we want to talk about. This is the guy who previous year finished 26th on the season money list for the Korn Ferry. So he was the first guy out from the whole season. So then you get to go to the Korn Ferry Finals. You still have a chance. 26th again in those 3 events. So he literally had 2 opportunities, and he was the first one out on both of them. So then he plays this whole year, earns his card. I think he had it locked up with like 4 or 5 events to go in the year before the obviously Korn Ferry Final playoff stuff. But it's like one of those ones where it's a good story. Dude dealt with adversity. I mean, like, imagine getting that close to your dream once, then backing it up and getting that close again right after, like a month later, having to deal with kind of like, I mean, those tournaments, I'm sure it came down on the final day to a few putts here and there. And so golf's a feel-good story, man. This is something that the media will soak up. Taylor Montgomery, a guy who dealt with his adversity. He's obviously had a few starts on the PGA Tour. He's played a few, I think the U.S. Open once. he's my pick. I like him.
All
He's
right.
coming. I mean, he's coming in. He played good golf in the Corn Ferry Finals.
You know what we call that? His situation, character builder.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
got a lot of character built over this last year.
High character guy. So Taylor Montgomery probably could get good value. I can't see the odds. I know he's 8,600 on DraftKings, which is pretty high.
Apparently, the PGA Tour and every media outlet out there is just taking this event lightly too, because we can't find a lot of information on it.
They've replaced LIV Golf with their poor previews.
Yeah. Jesus.
But like seriously, we've joked LIV we couldn't find out the teams, and all of a sudden they send the teams out, and we're laughing. Like, come on, we got the teams out already.
All right, so maybe we'll just dog walk people on the PGA Tour website until they give us a better.
Taylor Montgomery plus 5,000 to win. You're throwing shit at the wall on that for the record.
It's good value though, if it hits.
So,
I've seen crazier things hit.
I do think these events are where you can like go bet on some no name guys that are a lot of like high value. Like, yes, I made the comment, don't bet the favorites this week, and then Tony Finau went back to fucking back. But like, I do think there's merit behind these low level events. You can get really good values. Typically, some of these high valued, high priced guys from a betting standpoint, they don't. Do they perform? Maybe, but I just don't think you're going to get what you typically could get out of someone else.
I mean, yeah, you're trying to.
So like, you could go pick Max Homa, and Max Homa very well.
He's going to be in the.
Yeah,
like,
he
they're going to be in the
cares a
top
lot.
20, right? They're going to make the cut.
But,
like those guys always make the cut in these types.
We're
of
talking about
fields.
upside here, and
Right.
that's what I'm looking at. So
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for like if you bet Max Homa on a top 20 finish, like it's like negative 330, I guarantee you.
oh, probably, and it's like fuck. What if he finishes 19th, which you get the dead hero, or like 23rd?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're going too far, but what we wanted to do was do a little bit of a preview on the PGA Tour season. We had kind of 5 things we were going to talk about. We were going to talk about breakout players we expect to make noise. So guys from this past year who maybe did that were like a Tom Hoagie, a Sepp Straka, Cam Young, Sahith Theegala. We were going to have Korn Ferry grads or rookies to pick. We expect to win or contend, like a Cam Young and a Theegala, who was obviously a rookie. Tom Kim obviously jumped in that, but no one really knew he was before the season. Players that we expect to have a disappointing season going into the PGA Tour. Players that we expect to have a negative regression. So maybe someone who had a really good season this past year, and we expect to basically falter and play worse. Not saying they're play bad, but they just can't continue to play at the height that they're playing to. And then players to have the positive regression. So the flip side, maybe someone who didn't really have as good of a season this past year, and we expect them to kind of come back to where they were before. So a few different things to go in. I'd love to understand, I don't know where you want to start. If you want to start with the young guys, if you want to start with the regression question, I'm a data guy, so whatever you're looking to do.
I'm good wherever you want to start this thing off. You want to go? Let's go the young players first, and then we'll kind of get into the meat of it all with, I think, a lot more players that people know of.
Yeah.
As far as picking favorites and rebounds and all that fun jazz.
Okay, so we got 50 guys who graduated from Korn Ferry. They've graduated from the Korn Ferry finals or they got their card. And I want you to give me 3 names that you're like, hey, these are guys to look out for this upcoming season.
All right, so first name first, Marty Dow is the first name. That's the name that been on
Chinese,
the
yeah.
Korn Ferry Tour, I believe, for 2 or 3 years now. Been close to getting his card before. And he's not your prototypical like PGA Tour. He looks very young for his age. And is not the most athletic looking player in the world either, too. He almost looks like a 15-year-old guy that's still has to hit puberty a little bit. And I guess not to be too much of a dick, but Marty Dow's my first pick. That's just because he's won several times on the Korn Ferry Tour.
Yeah, he actually has 3 wins on the Korn Ferry Tour.
And it's a guy that's won. He's proven to win across multiple events from an amateur age and to the Korn Ferry Tour. So that's my first pick. Second one, this has no merit at all, but I'm picking Will Gordon simply for the last name Gordon. Jeff Gordon, grew up kind of my idol growing up as an NASCAR fan. Saw Will Gordon. He got into his PGA Tour card this year. That last name just sticks out.
He's
sticks
a
out to
former
me.
PGA Tour guy. He actually, I don't know if he ever won on the tour, but he got his card really early and then kind of faltered. And this is his second kind of chance on it. So I think that's a very good pick, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'm a big Will Gordon guy going into next season just because of the last name. Third guy, Harry Hall, Englishman, had a very good season on the Korn Ferry Tour. Obviously, anyone that got their PGA Tour card going into this next year. Again, I'm not like the biggest no-name guys like Sam is over here.
Oh, yeah, I'll go through all of them.
I watched him at not the Barracuda, but it was the Utah Championships. That's what it was. Big burly dude, big burly Englishman that I think should just be a name on people's radar going into next season.
I love it.
And I'm not a data guy like you are, so I'm sure you're gonna have, for your 3 picks, you're gonna have some stats behind that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I don't want to pick this guy because it's like the easy pick, but I'm gonna say it now. Jan Young-Chen, he was number 1 on the Korn Ferry Finals. He's not who I'm picking, but I just think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that guy.
Yep.
I'm gonna give you 5 names though.
Oh, 5. Okay.
Just 2 of them. 6 names. Excuse me.
Jeez.
2 of the 6 I've mentioned. So Thomas Dietry and Taylor Montgomery, I've been kind of riding for a little bit.
Yep.
Thomas Dietry's a professional who's played on the European Tour. He's had pretty good finishes. He obviously just had the top 5 of the BMW this past week, but he's a guy to look out for. He got into the Korn Ferry Finals. I think it was through like non-exempt FedEx Cup points list, and then he obviously qualified. But he's a premier golfer. When you talk about these 50 guys, he might be one of the highest ranked, if not the highest ranked of these 50 players. And then I talked about Taylor Montgomery. I don't need to repeat myself there. Last week on the show, I mentioned Brandon Matthews, the guy who drove the 470-yard par 4 green. Granted, not as the crow flies. Dude hits it a mile. He's going to miss a lot of cuts. But, man, when he has his on weeks and when you can watch him, he's someone who's going to be fun to watch hit the shit out of the ball. So watch out for him. Davis Thompson, Bulldog, Georgia Bulldog, earned his card.
Talked about him.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler, I think, was first on the Korn Ferry when he graduated. Davis was 14th. But where I draw comparisons is kind of graduated college, went to the Korn Ferry, had success, qualified in his first season. That's what Scotty did. That's what this Davis Thompson guy did. He's a good player. Obviously, he's been in some of these higher amateur events, so just look out for that name because he's a good one. Nick Hardy, I rode his dick for the whole second half of the season. Mm-hmm. But then the last name I wanted to mention was the South African who withdrew this week in the Fortinet, Dean Burmester. Another guy who hits the ball a shit ton, higher ranked guy due to his playing on the European Tour. So he's playing a lot of bigger events, was able to get into the Korn Ferry Finals through these, again, non-exempt FedEx Cup point stuff, and qualified. And so feel like I just went through a bunch of names.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to talk about the guys who, just breakout players I'm expecting to make some noise along with some rookies that I expect to win or contend. If I'm going to say of those guys I just mentioned, who I expect to have probably the best all-around season, probably Tom Dietry or Nick Hardy. But I do think Taylor Montgomery is someone who's going to win.
Okay. No, I think I respect that. So I'm kind of going over here through the list of looking at, there's only 2 guys out of the top 50 here that are actual PGA Tour members for the first time. And
what?
So they just got their PGA Tour membership. Like a lot of these guys have had some type of PGA Tour membership. But Justin Suh
so I think those are the guys who've actually had a card before.
No. So there's a little denote. It says the first time.
But ineligible for rookie status because they've played at least more than 8 events in a season.
Okay.
So I was going to say.
So I had that backwards.
Yeah, I was going to say I knew Suh's name for sure.
But it looks like half the guys that earn their card are going to be PGA Tour rookies for the upcoming season.
There's obviously a few guys who have gone back and they're coming up. But yeah, I guess one pick, rookie of the year right now. I don't think Tom Kim qualifies anymore.
No, I don't think Tom Kim qualifies at all. Marty Dow does not qualify for it. Will Gordon does not qualify it. So I got to go with Harry Hall. Harry Hall's my pick.
I want to say Taylor Montgomery, but sure, we'll roll with him. Taylor Montgomery. Right. I don't know.
I like it. Yeah. This is like shooting.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
We're shooting fish
finding a needle in a haystack right now.
I said shooting fish in a barrel. You're going to hit one.
Yeah.
We say all 50 names, we'll get one.
Right, exactly.
But you're right. Yeah, if we're guessing. So now I guess to more of the big names. I want to do the player that we expect to have a disappointing season. And this doesn't mean they're going to have a bad year. I think a name that we can really look at as like a reference point for this season is Jon Rahm. He won once. It wasn't a great year. He wasn't as competitive as he had been the previous season. The expectations were high. Not saying he had a bad season, but in the expectations-wise, he disappointed. Victor Hovland, disappointed. Now, all of a sudden, these 2 guys get top 5s there. They had, but
But still,
that's how, like, kind of who I'm saying is like a comp. So someone that maybe was in the Tour Championship, a bigger name, one or two that you would maybe say, hey, he's who I don't think is going to play well this year.
I mean, it's easy to look at like a guy like Scotty Scheffler, right? And just had a career year by all means. So I'm not going to pick him just because for him to try to repeat what he did last year would be
impossible.
Would be impossible.
I mean, it's not. Watch it. Tiger did it like 6 times, but
that's
Tiger.
His name was
that's the cat.
Tiger Woods. So, but kind of a name that pops up for me a little bit is, and I'm trying to like set my fandom aside from it too, right? It's something about me just says Justin Thomas. I don't know why. There's really no research behind that. He got a PGA Championship this year, so I think that's probably an easy way to look at it. But, it's a guy that we've seen struggle to make big putts when it matters, right? And I get a PGA Championship, totally different story, but there's a few events down the stretch, too, where he was in contention and then the putter just goes ice cold for him, and I think it's a huge Achilles heel that he needs to figure out before he becomes a dominant force on the tour. And again, this is a guy that's a lifetime member on the PGA Tour. But we've seen guys like Rory go through the ebbs and flow throughout the year. And I just don't think Justin's going to have a career year or have a year like he did this year. And that's going to be a disappointment for him. That's a guy that thinks very highly of himself, has big goals every single season. So I think that's kind of just a name that's coming to me right now.
Okay. So I was big on this guy, and I think we're getting to the year. I was big on this guy heading into the season, and he had a good year. Sam Burns won 4 times, I think, or 3 or 4, yada, yada, yada. He hasn't really won a huge event. He's won the Valspar. It's a good field. It's not a huge event. People don't talk. Like the normal golf fan who just tunes in for the majors, they might know who Burns is, but he hasn't really been competitive in the majors. And so the reason I'm saying I think he's going to have a disappointing season isn't because he's not going to play well. He might not win. Like, I think he'll probably get a couple wins, but I don't think he's going to win any of these big dick events, win any of the competitive things that like the normal golf fan cares about. That's where, and I just don't see a lot of competitiveness. He's competitive in these Fortinet championships, obviously, where he's much better. I just think when it gets to these bigger events, it doesn't crawl into a space. He hasn't done it yet. So I'm expecting him to continue to what he did this past year and have that disappointing aspect.
Yes.
This year was kind of his breakout. Hey, and so now the next year is let's be competitive. Let's make the step in the majors, in the big events. I don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, and you're not to sound like an asshole here, but there are players that, who are your Lee Westwoods, who are your, for Tom Perry, who are your Sergio Garcias, of guys that are on the PGA Tour, well-known names on the PGA Tour, but just don't ever win a major. And there may be times where Sam Burns comes close, but, that could be a name potentially. And I get he's still young. I think he's actually the same age as us, so I don't know if that's considered young. I would say it's still young.
I think he's younger than us, actually. Him and Scotty, they're a little younger than us.
Yeah.
Hacks.
Well, I thought the same. Well, Scotty's 25, but I thought a guy like Max Homa was young, and he's actually like 31, 32. So, but I don't hate that by any means. It's hard to repeat as a multiple time winner on any tour any time of year.
Mm-hmm. The other person I wanted to put in the disappointing category is Tom Kim. And I think it's more just because there's such high expectations after what he did to end the season. I don't, again, he's going to be a young dude. I think he's kind of like what happened to Siwoo Kim. He won the Players pretty early in his career, and he hasn't had a bad career by any means, but he has not lived up to a guy who won the Players Championship. Tom Kim did not win. He won the Wyndham.
Right.
Different event than the Players, but I think that's going to be at least the progression for next season. Doesn't mean he doesn't keep his card, but just a name to look out for.
Yeah.
All right, player. We just talked about negative. Now we'll finish with the negative regression, with who do we think is going to really taper off. But who do you think is going to have the positive regression? Maybe someone who didn't have as good of a season this year, and someone who's going to have a better season following. I have one name that's I'm just excited to say.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go first then?
Okay, it's Colin Morakawa.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't putt it well, which is that's the concerning aspect of it, but he never has, so we're not losing it. I think he didn't hit the ball as well this year.
He's playing that cut that he can't seem to figure out.
But he started, I think, toward the end, and I think he's too good to have these things impact how he's going to play. So I have a high expectation. I would buy a lot of stock that's low in Colin Morakawa right now for the upcoming season. And he's a guy who usually flies under the radar, wins a major, and is like, holy shit, why did we forget about this guy? Then kind of tapers off, flies under the radar. Oh, shit, now he's back. He wins another major. Like, that's kind of how it went the last 2 times. I think he's going to be poised to have a big season. Okay,
I like that. So I got 2 names. First name first is Ricky Fowler.
Ooh, I like this.
Kind of kept his card, barely. Kind of last man in, and we saw some signs of through the middle of the summer. He was getting some top 20 finishes, so I think he's close. He's talked about being close of really getting his game back. I mean, look, we saw Jordan Spieth take a dive. Rory at some point in time was not on the top of his game, had a career resurgent. So we've seen it. Well, now if he can resurge and win a couple more times throughout the end of his career, like granted, a lot of people still want him to get a major, which I do. I would love to see Ricky get a major. But if he can come back and be a winner on the PGA Tour, like that'll put him in elite PGA Tour lore, I guess you could say, just because we've talked about it. It's tough to stay on this tour and be a good player for a long time, and he's done that. Granted, he almost lost that.
But he didn't.
I mean, still sponsors exemptions and everything to go along with it. But I really do think he's just on the brink. He just switched from separated with his swing coach.
Yep.
So I think he's close, and I think maybe getting a new set of eyes on his swing will hopefully give him some type of resurgence. Second name, I do think Jon Rahm gets back and wins a major next year. I just think he's too good not to. Or whether that be a Players Championship, I think he's going to compete for several big events this upcoming season that we kind of expected him to do, and just didn't really happen. So, and I feel like it's a very easy pick, but I feel like Ricky.
I know you, and like, look, you went like, I don't think like mine was not like I said Morikawa. Like,
these are all guys that have shown brilliance in the past.
The other guy I wanted to mention, which you'll rip on now, he just won this past week. But again, like to the golf fan, people know who Shane Lowry is. He's an Open champion. He's a major champion. He had statistically, I think, his best season this past year from a strokes gain perspective.
He didn't win,
but he didn't win. He finally won this event, which is a European Tour. That's again, most golf fans probably didn't even know there was an event going on. Like they don't care as much, especially with football. So. Look, it's hard to keep it up. It's hard to keep the plane up. But, man, he's playing really good golf, and he's like a dog mentality, and I like that. So I do think Shane Lowry could have a very big season. He'll pick off a few wins, and I wanted, I had to get that out there. But, like, going on that hot take right after he wins a fucking event. Like, why couldn't you wait, man? Yeah. I guess the last one, and it's similar to what we talked about. Well, there's 2. I think we want to talk about maybe breakout players who are not rookies as well. But negative regression. And I have one guy here who I basically put this in because I wanted to go about it because I think expectations are off now. I think they're so heightened. And I'm going to say Rory McIlroy is going to negatively regress to what he did this past season. Now, I don't want him to. And here's my case. He was the best player in the world the moment COVID started. He was going into the Players as a massive favorite. He was going to win the Masters that year. Dude was on fire. All of a sudden, golf stops for a little bit. It's hard to get that back. You're going to have this off season now, basically these 3 months. And he's going to play a few times, but he's probably not going to be playing for a while, and then you got the majors. But to keep the level of where he's playing golf right now at that height of like level, that's going to be hard to do, especially as we go into major seasons. Which, if we're talking about a guy for like what we're expecting more from, man, he lost like 7 people in the majors this year, or 8 people. He has to win a major for it to be a successful season. I'm a betting man. I think it's a smart bet to bet against it. I would love for it to keep up. I just can't imagine that he's going to keep playing at this level of what he's been playing at. He had his best career season from a strokes gain, even better than 14. He picked up 3 wins. I just don't think his season's going to be as good. And I think he has this added motivation from LIV that's going to be watered down toward the end of next year.
See, I am in the complete opposite.
I love it. No,
I am in the complete opposite. But I think because of how well he played this year, gives him all the confidence in the world. And the one club that I wanted to see if he could finally get it going, and if he would, then he'd be a real force again. That was his putter. Mm-hmm. And he all year long, he was very consistent with it. And I just see my reasoning for why I think he's going to be even better next year. I do think I think he completes the career Grand Slam next year. I would
love that.
I really do think he's going to win the Masters this year, next year. I just think because he seemed to finally figure it all out and bring it all together. And even when he was winning majors back in the day, it wasn't necessarily all figured out from time to time, but it was the level of consistency that he played with this entire season, and continued to do so. And I think when you get that in the brain of a guy like Rory McIlroy, it just doesn't go away because you stop playing golf. And I'm kind of glad we see
we
this
got 7
differently.
months until the Masters. I think it's gonna be hard for him to keep up.
That's fair. But I think it's going to be opposite. I think he's just going to continue to go on a tear.
So who's your negative regression then?
My negative regression.
I mean, you said Scheffler earlier, which I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
But like, I just went with Rory. I mean, we talked about the 2 top players in the seat year.
I don't want to say this guy because I think he's got some of the most complete game on tour. But I'm going Cam Young.
See, that was the name I was going to sit there and if I was going to go with a non-top 2 player, I was going Cam Young.
I was just thinking him just because of what he did this rookie season was unbelievable. Granted, I know he didn't get the win, but he had 6 second place finishes.
I mean, 6 top 3s, I think.
Like, that's tough to repeat. And who knows, maybe if he gets 1 win versus, like, would you trade in those 6 second place finishes and that prize money for one win?
Yeah, I just think it's a monkey off the back type thing, and it's going to take a while to get through it.
Yeah, and then again, he didn't face too much adversity, I feel like, this season, which I think next year we could see that. Again, that's a safe pick just because of the level that he played with. But that's a guy that I don't show me something, I guess, is what, like, you had your chance.
Go fucking win.
Yeah, you had your chance at the Open, which I get it's the Open.
Made an eagle on the last one.
Yeah, but I need to see you get in the winner circles before I'm fully confident in your abilities. Okay.
No, I like the pick. I think we're both kind of there. I guess the one question I will have for you is, does he get a win this year? Now, and again, we're talking about negative regression. He had a phenomenal season. He can still get a win and have negative regression. Does he get the win?
I don't know. I really don't. Is because I thought there had been some, like, he was playing some of the best golf, like, for 4 or 5 months.
His floor was so high.
Yeah.
His floor, I mean,
he just ultimately didn't get it done when he could have. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be something that plagues him.
He's got to go play in the Puerto Rico Open. He's got some Tony Finau in him.
Yeah. You could say that. You could definitely say that.
I mean, he's not choking like Tony, but at some point we got to start talking about it.
Right. And that's what we're here to do. So I don't know. I feel like if we could go inside of his head a little bit better and get a little bit better feel of who he was, I could give a better answer, but he's a very reserved guy and just gives you very vanilla answers. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's just an easy pick, and that's where I'm going with it.
Okay. So I have 2 young guys that I expect to break out. By no means are they names people don't know about, but they're not huge names. And I don't know if you have any right off the top of your head, and I might take yours, but one guy particularly finished this season strong, Aaron Wise.
Okay. You're a big Aaron Wise guy.
Or Oregon Duck. He's got the broomstick as the new putter. I've never been a guy who can really putt that well, but I think a lot of these pros, when they come out and if they win early, then they deal with these issues where they kind of falter. And he was someone who really did. I mean, I think at one year he didn't qualify for the FedEx Cup playoffs, but because of his win, he was able to keep that exemption, he was able to stay another year. And I think he's a guy who, you're kind of second time around, you get this early win, you're like, I know what the fuck I'm doing. And it's like, wait, no, you get hit by like a wall. It's like, wait, you kind of had a hot week, and that's what happened. I think he's on the back, okay, I had my win, I fell down, and now I'm figuring out how I need to be consistent week over week. And so I like Aaron Wise. The other guy I really like, Maverick McNeely.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, not like they're 2 bigger no-name guys, I would say. But he's never won on tour yet, Matt McNeely, Stanford Cardinal, but a good player who, when he is in, like, basically when he makes cuts, he makes the most out of his cuts. Up until, I mean, toward the end of this year, he was finally like, it was not like make the cut, miss the cut, make the cut top 10, miss the cut. Like it was more, he was making cuts on a whim. And so I think he's learning how to heighten that floor, which I keep talking about on here, is make that floor not a 90th place finish, but a made cut top 40 or something. And that adds up after a while and really develops that confidence.
Okay. I like that. No one off the top of my head, really. we've talked about Maverick McNeely, so I like that pick a lot.
Okay.
I guess one question for you going into next season or this upcoming starting of the season is how many first-time major winners do we have
Of the four.
And who are they?
So that's a hot take, right?
It's a full hot take
to go into the season.
So this past season, obviously, we had Cam Smith, first-time major winner. We had
Scotty Scheffler,
first-time major. Not Jordan, but Justin Thomas was a repeat.
And then obviously Matt Fitzpatrick, first-time major winner.
So three of the four were first-time winners, the names that have been on the tour for a while.
So you said Rory's going to win the Masters.
So I do think Rory is going to win the Masters. That would be my selection there. First-time winners, I believe Patrick Cantlay gets one this upcoming season. That's a guy that's been on the tour for a long time. So Patrick Cantlay, I don't know which one. I'm not going to do a prediction for every single one.
For the record, just to steer into that, the U.S. Open's at LA Country Club. He's a UCLA Bruin.
Okay.
When he won Freshman of the Year.
Yeah,
so.
there we go. So I like Patrick Cantlay to get one.
I'm just trying to look up the venues right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of names.
So it's at LA. I mean, obviously the Masters is at Augusta.
Right.
Then you have LACC for the US Open, which will be a fun venue. You have Royal Liverpool for the Open, and then the PGA Championship is at Oak Hill in New York, which will be interesting in New York, upstate New York in May. You could get some dicey weather.
Yeah.
All right. So you're how many you said?
I got Rory so far and Patrick Cantlay are two guys that Patrick Cantlay obviously being a first-time winner. And then a third, Tony Finau.
Fuck you, man. I literally was about to say it.
Yeah.
You stole my guy.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're both going to go with Tony Finau. So you got, I'm just right.
And I could see him potentially being like a U.S. Open.
See, I actually like Finau at Oak Hills.
Okay.
It's a tight golf course, but dude hits it far. And here's my thing: if it's in May, that golf course could be soaked. So it's gonna, and it is a bomb and gouge golf course. I mean, you got to hit it straight. Don't get me wrong, but it is not a LICC. You're not playing. It's not like Southern Hills where I mean, it was kind of a bomb and gouge, but different type of golf. I think the guys who hit the ball far have a significant advantage, and that goes.
Well, and it will be interesting too if these guys from LIV Golf are able to play in it, because then it kind of makes does
DJ come back?
Yeah, it makes it a bit easier for a lot of these guys that haven't won on tour to get a major. So. All right, so we agree on one guy.
We agree on Finau.
Yeah, I want to part of me too wants to pick like a first time winner that comes out of the blue, but I think something tells me Jordan Spieth at Royal Liverpool.
Okay.
I'm
trying to remember who won at Royal Liverpool.
Wasn't it?
I'll figure it out real quick.
I'm pretty sure that was Rory McIlroy. When he won by
in 14,
won by 1 million.
There you go. Wow, look at that.
Check out the brain on this kid.
Yeah, that is wow.
Yeah, I remember.
And Tiger won in 2006, so Spieth would be a deserving champion.
Yeah.
To follow those guys. All right, so you gave me good ones. Spieth, Finau, McIlroy, and Cantlay. So I'm going Finau.
All Americans too.
Yeah. Well, McIlroy's.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was dumb.
I thought about saying that.
I went from having a great brain moment to just a stupid brain moment. God bless.
So I'm all on the Tony Finau train.
Okay.
Obviously, I think Shane Lowry wins another. Major.
You were just riding that high.
He's a gamer, man. I'm going Shane Lowry wins another major. Which one is it? Who could say? I want to pick a no-namer. But here's the guy who I didn't even refute this, but I think it's time for me to refute this. I think Justin Thomas has a great season.
Okay.
I totally agree with you. It's going to come down to the fucking putter. That's his Achilles heel.
Yeah.
And it's not that he putts bad. He just doesn't make enough. But I think he got his second major, and he was a guy that everyone expected to always win a major. And he got it pretty early, and then all of a sudden took a long time to get that next one.
5 years in between, yeah.
And so I think this monkey off the back gives him a little more amount of confidence.
Okay.
Augusta.
Oh, okay.
JT in that green.
I love JT, so I hope for that.
And then you're putting me on the spot with this other one. I guess
I put myself on the spot. I had to kind of pull those off the top of my head.
I'm gonna go with the guys who I'm banking on having good seasons. And who I think are going to have good years, and I'm going to go with Colin Morakawa.
Okay.
These are 4 guys I would bet, hey, they're going to win a major this year.
I look at this list too, and like you said, you want to pick a no-name guy that kind of comes out of nowhere, but we've seen over the last couple of years, it's not easy for these no names to just kind of come out of anywhere.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler, people can say maybe Scotty Scheffler, but like he was playing great golf at the time.
He had just won a few times.
Yeah, he won at Bay Hill. He won at...
And it's not like he wasn't like he was on the Ryder Cup team the year before. Like, that's a top 12 American, which I don't know if you know, that means you're a top 20 golfer in the world probably.
Yeah, Matt Fitzpatrick been on the tour for a long time. You know who's a name I would love to see get a major next year though?
Well, Ricky Fowler won, but
that's a more realistic pick. Max Homa.
I would love that.
The people's champ.
Well, and he was basically out there and said, he's like, I have not performed in the majors that I've wanted to. He had a good outing. I think it was at the Open for the first time.
Yep.
I think he hadn't like made a cut. So I think that's a part of like, okay, you made the Tour Championship. You've qualified for all those things, and he's now in that next category of like, okay, let's like actually like it's not just about playing in these events and maybe making the cutoff. I'm like, it's like, no, I'm going to try to fucking win these things, and that's what his mentality is. And so I think there's an aspect of he's going to try to do that.
Yeah. A name we had not even talked about that I think we should mention is I'll be interested to see how Will Zalatoris bounce back from his 2 herniated discs.
I thought about putting disappointing year for him.
I don't think you can label that as anything just because like this is a pretty significant injury.
He's not getting surgery. And so here's my concern from someone who's had back surgery, had a herniated disc. I only had 1, not 2. It's painful to deal with. It's painful to walk around. I dealt with it for a year. Now, I don't know the severity of his compared to mine. My good friend who's a chiropractor might disagree with me on this, but I do think that there's an aspect of if you want to actually fix this problem, you need to get surgery. There's things you can do to remediate, and yes, there are negative potential repercussions from surgery. I mean, Tiger's had like 15 of them at this point.
Yep.
But I think this is something that, like, I don't think he wanted to do surgery right away, which I agree. I mean, I took a year to make that decision. But it's not something that just kind of goes away. And I'm sure he's doing a lot of rest. And, like, obviously what he's doing is way better than what I was doing prior to my thing. I mean, he's a professional athlete. I was in my first fucking job out of college, making like $6 an hour. So different story. But, yeah, I don't know what to expect. And I don't think we're going to see him until next year. I don't think we're going to see him until the Tournament of Champions.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that puts us what?
January 1st.
Yeah, 4 months away.
So, look, we'll see. Maybe I'm off base on that.
Yeah, no, I think his name I mentioned because he was having a good year and competed in all the majors.
He's always been he's been very competitive since basically his name came out.
Yeah, so you can't really put expectations because you don't know what's going to happen with that back of his.
LIV golfer, you give a chance to win a major though this year. And again, we don't know. I mean, certain guys are exempt. They might block him. They might say, "Hey, you're a champion at Masters, Dustin, but we don't want you." But one guy that you could see maybe winning a major.
Easy picks, DJ, no doubt about it.
So let's go on a limb because I think we both would have said DJ.
Yes. I just look. I to be honest, like not to sound like a dick towards LIV Golf, but I really only think there's like 4 or 5 players that realistically can compete on the PGA Tour, like with the level of play of all these guys. It's not like there's a lot of slouches. I mean, we've seen it from multiple events, like Taylor Gooch, Cam Smith, DJ, Patrick Reed, Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, but Bryson hasn't really done a ton in a while.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a big part of it was his injury this past year, but and maybe people will call me an idiot for leaving Brooks Koepka out, but I've said it enough. I just don't think Brooks Koepka cares enough.
Yeah, it's fine.
And he's got his he's got his 4 majors. He's not a guy wants to chase down Jack's number, wants to chase down Tiger's number. He just
chase down that bag of money.
Yeah, I mean, he's in it for the money, and it's very clear. And hanging out doing weird Buzz Lightyear videos.
I was going to say, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, I have no idea what that was on his Instagram. So, like, that just, like, to me, it's just, like, his brain is in other places aside from, and he's...
Which is fine. You earned it. Like, we're not...
And he's admitted that. Like, that's not us being, like, a dick towards him. He admitted he doesn't like golf like that.
And look, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you don't want to be like, go, cool. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I wish I had that talent.
Man. If I had that talent, but like, hey, more power to you, I guess.
Yeah,
you did what you want, and now you move on. I would go with Bryson. I think he's had to deal with so much fucking like backlash and shit that like coming and playing, like there is distractions for these LIV guys going to these majors, but I think for Bryson, like that's so minuscule from what he's had to deal with that that's something he won't have to like it's just a matter of does he have it that week, and I think. I don't know a ton of the course off the top of my head. Oak Hill probably doesn't fit well if his driver's going everywhere. Augusta's a par 68 to him, clearly. Remember that year? Everyone literally was like, he's going to win. There's no way he doesn't win this.
Yeah, and then shot a million.
Yeah, which is funny. But I think, like, there's courses where if he's on that week, man, he is obviously one of the best players in the world. He hits the ball so far. He just gets so much out of it.
Yeah. I just, for those guys, too, coming back, it's not like the fans are the biggest dick or, like, to these guys playing. Like, they root for him. They still cheer for him. We saw it at the Open.
Yeah.
Like, so you're not coming into a hostile environment besides maybe the players and the way the tournament director set you up for that.
Of all people, he hasn't come on and said anything stupid about the LIV stuff.
No, he said he made
it's a business decision. Yeah, and it's like, well, fuck, okay. Like,
you kind of got to respect him for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, you're not going to, again, don't please.
Respect him for just saying why he actually made the decision, not trying to sugarcoat shit.
Correct. Exactly.
So who are you on? HV3?
Yeah, no. If I had to pick one,
Cam Smith, safe pick.
Yeah, can't. Well, they're all 5 of those guys are safe picks. So I guess take your pick out of those 5. I think
I'm writing Cam Smith for you.
Put Patrick Reed just because I hate him, and that's the only reason why I think he'll win.
Just to piss you off. All right, well, Birdie Bogey of the week.
Birdie of the Bogey of the week. So this should be, I think, pretty easy for both of us. My birdie of the week is Red Zone. NFL Red Zone on Sunday.
Yeah. Fantasy football is back. Gambling for football is back. I fucking love it. I actually had a pretty good weekend. Kentucky won. I got a little Zazat on Saturday and ended up placing more and more money because of these like promos on DraftKings on Kentucky. I only took them with the points. I wish I took them like money line. I took a money line in a different parlay that would have paid out a lot, which wouldn't have mattered. But.
Yeah, I think I went like 6-2 on my NFL bets yesterday, so it was a great day.
But yeah, no, football is back, baby, and I love it. And fall golf. Yeah, I think that's both of our birdies. Do you have a bogey though?
My bogey of the week, I don't know if I necessarily have one, to be honest with you.
It's a good week.
It was a very like. I guess bogey of the week, and we can keep it with the football theme. Is I lost 3 out of my 4 fantasy football leagues.
Oh, that's a tough break.
Not that anybody cares about fantasy football team, but like that was honestly my only down moment of the entire week.
It's good.
It was honestly a pretty reserved week, pretty quiet week, and that's about it. I guess another bogey you could throw in there is I haven't played any golf, so I haven't been able to do this next signature series.
But
so
we might. Maybe Saturday.
Yeah, so that's I guess the bogey is not being able to play golf and losing in fantasy football. Okay. What about you?
My bogey, I'm at the tailgate on Sunday, and I put a lot. I mean, I'm in a lot of fantasy leagues, but I am like huge on one. I was huge on a few guys, but like this one guy in particular. Like other guys, I was big just because I was like getting them late in the draft. Like a Darrell Henderson, like he's gonna split time as a running back, get him in the 11th round is good value. I'm huge. I was huge going into the year, and I still am. On Devontae Smith, who got shut down by Lions faithful Jeff Okudah.
Shout out.
4 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. I made a bet at the tailgate to someone who was like, they have A.J. Brown. Fuck you. Like, he's way better. I'm like, no. Hot take, Devontae Smith will have a better season than A.J. Brown. And we didn't know exactly how we're going to measure it, but if we want to just measure after week 1, A.J. Brown had 156 yards, Devontae Smith had 0.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a good spot after that. But, hey. We got him right where we want him. I don't know why they put Okudah on him instead of A.J. Brown, but
well, they had and they were floating him, but back and forth. I think Rory was on the strong side and Okudah was on the weak side. So
tough loss for the
because
Lions,
Okudah went out when Will Harris went on A.J. Brown, and that's how they had that deep completion down the field.
Classic, of course.
Love that for us.
But tough break for the lie downs, not getting the W. But next week's the litmus test. We keep saying. Panic could set in. I know this is a golf podcast, but we're Lions fans. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, we're going to talk some Lions here and there. It's slow season for golf, and we could be very depressed coming in here next week for the podcast.
Well, we're not going to be depressed because we're used to it.
I'm still not used to it.
Okay,
so I'm so into the Dan Campbell hype that
you're a glass half full guy. I'm a glass half empty guy.
Yeah,
that's why.
That is true.
There it is.
I agree to that. So I think that really wraps up. PGA Tour back this week.
Yeah, Fortinet, and then we got President's Cup following week.
Yeah, so kind of really going to kickstart things. And again, the field's not that bad this week, so I'm looking forward to watching. Yeah. I'll throw on some golf this week along with some football.
And it's in Cali, so it'll be some late night golf, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, a little dual TV action like I love to set up on my place on Sunday. So. And on Saturday, and with college football too. Mm-hmm. So, if you're getting out, you know what I did see, they still need to get red zone in golf carts on Sundays.
Every year, week 1, and you just your fucking Instagram, your Twitter is just blown up with those things.
With those memes.
Yeah. I mean, I think they just need to do something where you can like you can AirPlay your phone to a TV. You should be able to AirPlay whatever to that.
I think those are eventually coming. Yeah.
But yeah, you're probably right. It's kind of like how people, like Apple, they have like iPhone, 25 already created. They're just you got to make your money on this one, then move to the next one. It could be like, hey, we have this, but we're just not doing it yet. So.
Yeah, so it's a matter of time. But golf courses need to invest in it because they get way more revenue on Sunday afternoon.
It would also slow down play.
Yeah, that's true. But I think everyone would be okay with it because they understand what's going on.
Everyone else is watching, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in slow play, you watch
This is the Red Zone 9. This is the non-Red Zone 9.
Yeah.
We'll flip you.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're getting out this weekend, play early so you can watch football. And again, fall is coming. Winter is coming. So get out there, enjoy some golf, and hit them far and hit them straight.